everything paranormal. Para X. The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Bright the cheeks and warm the heart, but tread the circle thrice about to keep unwelcome spirits out. Bide within the law you must, in perfect love and perfect trust. Mind the threefold laws you should, 3 times bad and 3 times good. These 8 words the read fulfill, and ye harm none, do what ye will.
Welcome to Stirring the Cauldron. Now, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
And merry meet everybody, and welcome. Now, tonight Tim Shaw is here with me, but technically it's not a Rev and Witch show. It's more like a Tim and Marla show, which happens every so often, too. But I kind of coerced him into coming on and doing kind of a master class on a divination technique called scrying, and a lot of people know what that is. It all began when I asked him to write out some instructions on how to make a black scrying mirror for a project I was working on, and he said yes. That surprised me right away. And then a few days later, the light bulb popped up over my head that maybe it would be interesting for him to come on and teach us about scrying, and lo and behold, he said yes again. Now, the fact that he said 2 yeses in a row is kind of uneasy, giving me the jitters, but maybe he's mellowed in a bit, just a little bit when time is coming up. Tim, are you mellow fellow these days?
Well, I kind of pretend to be, I guess, maybe. Sometimes. No, not at all. I'm going to be honest with you. Not.
So my jitters are no found. I mean, you know what?
It's called lulling you into a false sense of safety, and then I'm gonna and then you pull the rug out from underneath you. That's the way it works, Marla. You know.
I've been off that rug a few times, so yeah, I can vouch for that. But you know, he has cushions that you can fall onto, so it's not for everybody maybe, but I think he takes pity on me and says, okay, here's a cushion. Okay, now I'm pulling the rug out.
No, Mara, you know that. You're one of my favorite people in the entire world, so.
Oh, you gotta look hard.
It's got a little something there, you know how it is. I don't know how. It's not like the Grinch art that becomes 10 times fold or whatever, however big it gets, but it's like it's there almost.
Well, it's longevity. I mean, we haven't killed each other yet.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
If you think about how far back we go,
yes,
which is scary.
Yes, it is. But I mean, it's nice, but it's scary at the same time.
You know what? I did an interview not too long ago, and they said, "Well, okay, how long have you been, doing, what you do?" And I said, it goes back to the, early 70s, blah, 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 blah. And then he goes, "Well, how long have you been broadcasting?" And I went, oh my God. I couldn't even remember how far back it was. And it's like, I still remember you coaching me how to do half the stuff for Para X, because I couldn't do any of it back then.
Well, you were kind of afraid, and everybody was jumping down your throat. Dave Jones was jumping down. Everybody else was saying, "Come on, do the show." And no, I don't want to. No,
I came into this kicking and screaming, and look where the heck it took me.
Aren't you glad that you got, beaten up? Yeah?
Yeah, you know how it is. Yeah, It's been a wild ride. Let's put it that way.
Well, true.
it was the wildest ride this year for sure. 28 hours in the Detroit airport trying to get to an event. That was wild.
Yeah, I'm surprised you came out alive from that one, knowing you.
So that wasn't, you know what? That wasn't bad. Like we
No?
talked before, that wasn't bad because it was like a really bad joke. A medium, a demonologist, a witch, and a bunch of ghost hunters all get stuck in an airport. It was like a really bad joke. But the problem was getting home because it's like I missed that flight by 3 minutes. They were closing the airport, and I had to find lodging in New York City for like 4.5 or 5 hours. So what do that's when it got a little hairy. But you think about it, and it's like, wow, all the people that I've met over the years, and all the places that I've gotten a chance to go to and hang out with everybody. Yeah. The only place I haven't really gotten a chance to work is out west, and I've gone as far as Flagstaff, Arizona. That's.
Oh, you were in Vegas once, weren't you?
No, you know what happened? That was one of those. That was one of those really bad. How can I say it politically correct?
Go for it.
There was a problem with the contracts.
Okay.
And
being nice, yeah.
Yeah, it was a problem with the contracts, and nobody got paid, and the checks bounced, and I had, I really had a bad feeling about it, and there was a lot of circumstances to it, so I stayed home in that one.
Oh, okay.
So, I ended up making, more money just going and hanging out, on the street corner with my tin cup while I was singing for people to tell me to shut up, and they would stuff it with dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So
you knew what to do and how to do it. Yeah. Well, maybe you were lucky because I was going to probably try and get out to Vegas and tap you on the shoulder, but maybe it wasn't meant to be.
It wasn't meant to be. I'm telling you, we always kid. If we ever meet anywhere, if the Earth is going to move off its axis.
Yeah. Well, it might be fun if that happens too. Maybe we can scry and find out, the thing. But, okay, so here's the thing about scrying.
Yeah.
You sent me a mirror, right?
Yes.
You made it with your two little hands.
Yes.
I can't do it. And, I have no luck. Maybe I'm not looking. I don't know what I'm supposed to see. Maybe I have to take time and patience, before that happens.
Well, we all know about your patience level.
in certain things, you're right. Yeah. But so, all right. So you see all these programs, right? And I know this isn't the truth, but they're looking in a crystal ball, like in the Wizard of Oz.
Right.
So the Wicked Witch of the West sees the flying monkeys go past, and what Dorothy is doing, and whatever. That's not what people see when we do real scrying, right?
Well, up to a point.
Right.
Some people can see like that. That's called seeing objectively.
Really?
And objectively means through your eyes. So you're actually seeing scenes ahead, in front of you. And it's actually, you're not actually seeing them. What's happening is your mind is, your brain is kind of projecting outward, and it's making you think that you're seeing them through your eyes. So what it really is more subjective. It's more within your own brain. And scrying is a two-way street, because it's either you can either do that objectively, and you can see something, or or you allow your vision, or your whatever in that pea brain of mine that I'm looking at to project these visions outward, or I'm getting them in my brain at the same time, where all I'm doing is I'm using the mirror as a focal point, where I am delving deep into the mirror. And a lot of times people don't realize, but it's also a form of meditation, because people candle scry. Mm-hmm. And in order to candle scry, it's almost the same thing as meditating to a candle, where you're looking into that candle and allowing yourself to be brought into that candle, and allowing your psyche to open up to whatever is around you. So yeah, that's there's two schools on that, and you have to go and you have to, if you realize both ways, that both ways are correct, then all of a sudden you're trying so hard, then all of a sudden it just becomes easy. I'll always remember I tried to scry for years and years and years, and I couldn't get it. I felt like I was like the doofus of the class, and I could not figure it out. So I was hanging out with Buck, the late Ray Buckland, and he says, "Well, come to a class tonight. I'm teaching, scrying. I'm teaching all this, And we were in Lilydale. I said, "Yeah, I'm going to come up, And he was teaching all these great methods. I mean, really fantastic methods that were like a little different from what the traditional methods were. And scrying, Mar, those little tiny little dots, those little reflective dots with all the facets on them that have adhesive on one side, and you can stick them on like anything. You can stick them on your forehead. You can stick them on clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he would give you one of those, and then he would give you a black piece of felt. And he said, put it in the middle. Glue that thing right to the middle. And I did.
Middle of what?
Of the felt. I'm sorry, of the felt. Put it right in the middle of the felt.
Okay.
And he goes, okay, now I want you guys to, and he lowered the lights, and he goes, I want you guys to stare at it. And I want you guys to imagine yourself going deep into that little dot, like it's a pool of water, like you're going under the water. And at that point, I said, oh, I can't see it. I don't see it at all, but I'm visualizing it.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing I know, boom, I'm getting a whole scene. And
so I'm interrupting for a second, but isn't that maybe the third eye? Because when you were talking about, you're visualizing, but sometimes is there the difference between visualizing and seeing through the third eye?
I think it's the same thing myself. I'm going to be honest with you.
All right.
And again, I mean, I look at it a little bit differently than like a lot of metaphysicians. I don't just believe that there's a third eye where that you can go and you can absorb this. I believe your whole body is like a third eye. I believe that your whole body absorbs all this energy and it can, you become like a big battery, and it just kind of oozes up and out, and you're able to go and ascertain these things. So I believe that whatever is going on out there, whatever you're beginning to see now becomes clearer and becomes more precise, and you're able to go and visualize yourself going into this dot. And again, it's for me, it's all amount of focus. And the big thing that I learned from him was, guys, some of you, I remember him saying that, guys, some of you guys are going to, you're going to see with your eyes, and you're going to just open up your eyes, and all of a sudden you're going to get like a shock. You're going to be like, oh my God, and then it's going to stop. He goes, and the rest of other people here will see it in their head. They're going to be able to see scenes in their head, and they're using that dot, and they're using the guided meditation or the guided talk as your gateway into, whatever you're scrying. And it was funny when he said that, it made so much sense, because as a medium, as someone who had been training since, as a kid, you'd think to yourself, wow, everything has got to be literal. So, okay, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to scry and I'm going to see all this stuff dancing around. And that's not always the way it works. It works in whatever way it works for you. And because I was trained as a medium, now I've trained people to scry who are not mediums, who are not psychics. I mean, everybody's a psychic or a medium, but they're not trained. They don't practice it. Yet they were able to see with their eyes movement and looks like cloud formations and push through. And others who are trained psychics, trained mediums, who are used to not using the tools of divination like cards or whatever. Everything was subjective. Everything was in their head. And I thought, wow. I mean, so there is no right or wrong way of doing it. There is no there is no like final goal. Well, you should be seeing, not, imagining this stuff. There is no right or wrong. And I think that's why scrying becomes so important with what we do. And come on, you guys know me, man. I scry on everything. If I see a piece of glass, you can scry on it. I have a new toy here. It's a bell that I just bought for a seance, and it picks up. It's a little electronic piece, and it picks up natural EMF opposed to man-made EMF, and it's polished. It's got that polished surface on there. I can scry into that. Or what I love to do is I like to take like a gemstone, a polished gemstone, or I like to take a larger piece of like quartz that has a flat surface that's more polished. And it doesn't matter if it's like clear or if it's got fractions in there or if it's got whatever they call them. I can scry on that, along with using crystal balls and and all that. I mean, I can scry on a polished piece of tin. So you can scry in everything. At church, I always remember at one of the first churches that I served, there was a guy there, a gentleman there, and he was oh my God, he was a great medium, great psychic. I mean, he was unbelievable. But he used a crystal ball. And, the church I belonged to, was a part of the National Spiritual Association of Churches. And they kind of don't encourage you to do that because I'm sure they always say, well, you should be developing your mental mediumship, but I'm sure it harkens back to the days of, all the frauds, the great age of, the great shameful age of, the
ectoplasm.
Ectoplasm and sideshow freaks and, all that stuff, and, I always call it the billet readers and, the stuff that can be easily manipulated. And they would call him up there, up to the platform, and he would be looking down. He would look up to where he was, to somebody where he was going to go and read, because it was a gallery. But he would look down, and one day I asked him, "Gee, what are you looking down at?" And he said, "I am looking at my thumb." I said, "Your thumb?" He goes, "My thumbnail." He says, "In Tibet, they do that. And what you do is you just kind of like either polish it up or you like put a little spit on there, a little wet, make it a little damp." And he goes, "You scry your thumb." So I'm actually scrying. He goes, "I'm scrying my thumb, and that's how I'm doing my readings." And he goes, "The blue hairs don't realize it." So he goes, they keep calling me up, and I was laughing, but yeah. So you can scry your thumbnail,
Wow.
So you can scry almost anything. And a lot of people are, they think that everything's got to be so pure. I've got crystal balls here. Back in the 70s and 60s, they used to have the glass orbs that used to have like the little bubbles in them and stuff.
Yeah.
I scry those. I buy those wherever I can find them if they're cheap enough. And I use those constantly. So, I mean, everything doesn't have to be perfect if you start to learn how to scry.
Okay, I got 2 questions from the chat room about this, so let's get that. Kathy said, because we're talking about crystal balls, but she said, would using crystal balls equate to scrying? Would using a bowl of water also be considered scrying?
Both are perfect, yes. I scry water, and there's 2 different types of water scrying. One is just tap water. And you can go and use, a lot of people, for some reason, they like copper. I don't know why. I don't know why. I mean, I've scryed copper. It doesn't, it's okay. I mean, I use it. But I went, and you know me, Marla, I always go out and buy the most expensive thing I can find if I'm going to teach a class. So I went to a Goodwill, and I bought like 6 or 8 plastic bowls that were pitch black. They were black, and I paid $0.25 a piece for them. And you fill those up with water, and you can scry those with no problem. But there's two different types of like water scrying. One you use just any water, and one you use rainwater, which is more natural. And I know that's in some traditions they really suggest that. I've used it. It works. I mean, I understand how it works. I understand why you would do that, especially like in the craft. A lot of people would do that because you're using a natural element opposed to one that has been filtered and all this stuff has been added to it. So it all depends on what you feel is comfortable. And I love it. Water scrying is fun. You know what you do is it's really cool if you can get a big a copper coated bowl, like a salad bowl. They're about 8-10 inches in circumference, and you fill that up with water and you turn the lights down just enough, so that you're not in total darkness, but yet there's nothing that's going to kind of impede or reflect on your when you look into the water. That is awesome. We've done that. I've done that up at Paranormal Oddities quite a few times, and that place is pretty haunted. And boy, I'll tell you what, at that place you can get some really crazy stuff out of there when you start scrying in there, and it's real strong. And I think it's a lot of times it has to do where you're, with where you're scrying. If you create sacred space where you do spell work, or if you do meditation or whatever, and you create that sacred space, that's the best place to scry, because it's already got that energy just oozing out of the ground, waiting, just waiting to go and work with you.
Let me ask you this other question again. I'm asking you question number 2. You were talking about what you were seeing when you scry, and Dinah wants to know if it can be symbolic sometimes instead of literal.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, yeah. See, I trained myself to use symbols. Because being trained as a gallery worker, and as a gallery worker, we're trained to do 3 readings in 12 minutes, and that's including an identifier and the message and this whole thing,
Yeah.
And so you've got to be on your toes. You've got to move it, So you're kind of training the other side to go and say, hey, what would you give me as a symbol of whatever, like finances or whatever? And for me, it's the apple basket. And apples go in, apples go out. Finances come in, finances go out. So I mean, that's what I use. Or a mirror. A mirror comes up, and it's a symbol of me, which means I have to tell you something about me that pertains to whatever the message that's coming through. And in scrying, when you're working, that is, that's the hardest part, because you've got to go and develop your own language with the other side. You've got to develop that language in order to go and if they're showing you something, what does it mean? And then you have to figure out in your own brain, you have to know whether it's literal or symbolic. And I mean, I'm at that point now where I get something that might be, I can tell the difference. And but you have to work with it, and that's where patience and practice comes in the play. And you have to, and that's, see, I think what happens is too many people, they like jumping on that instant gratification train,
Yeah.
And it's not like the old days where, there was no internet and there was like 3 or 4 channels on TV, and most people, maybe listen to the radio more or whatever. But a lot of people back then would go and practice. They would just go and sit down before they went to bed, and they'd practice for an hour every day for, a month or 2. Yeah. And I so believe that that's the key of what we do. I so believe that is something that is being kind of lost, now. And too many people want to leave a class, and they want to say, oh, I want to, I want this visitation, or I want to be able to go and sit down and see my future or whatever. And it takes time, and it's an exercise. You don't, if you're out of shape and you're, don't think that just by going to the gym one day you're going to go in and you're going to be in shape again.
Right.
It just takes time and patience and practice.
All right. So Dinah kind of gave another thing to talk about, and it now it gets in my head, and it's kind of weird. Because
Nobody
wants.
Listen, Marley. Nobody wants to get into your head. No.
No. Okay. But she says now for a couple of years she's been seeing an old-time ship going through a cloud-like portal.
Yeah.
And so can these things be repetitive?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And that is how you start to learn how to use symbols, because to me that means that it's a ship of energetic personalities and going through a portal, a cloud-like portal that wants to either contact you or wants you to work with them in some way. And by seeing that constantly over and over again, that could be like the beginning of this communication starting to happen. And repetibility when it comes to symbology is so important, because again, it tells you when you're open, tells you when it's time to, close the session, tells you, gives you, really quick answers, all these quick ideas that are coming into your head. You're able to do it 10 times faster than you would by just visualizing something that I see a boat, I see this, I see that. Instead of that, it's all rolled into one, and it's like, okay, I get the symbol. I'm seeing the symbol of a door opening. You know what that means? That means that you're ready to walk into, this new endeavor. Something new is going to go on, and then you just kind of build on every symbol that comes through. And, sometimes I get literal stuff, especially when I'm scrying, I get a lot of literal stuff. But when I'm doing mental mediumship, I get so much symbology. Yeah. And it's kind of weird. I've talked to other mediums and other psychics, and for them, it's just the other way around. So that's why I always say it depends on you. It depends on how your brain works. And, and Marla, you'll attest to this. My brain does not work in most times. So,
I'm being polite. I just bit my tongue.
Yes, I know. I figured.
No, but, okay, so we've got about 3 minutes before the break. But when you sit down to scry, are you doing it to find out something like a question, or just to see what you can see?
I always set an intention.
Is there a purpose? Okay.
I always have a purpose. A purpose. In anything that you do in divination or seance, you must have a purpose. Why are you doing this? Because if you don't have a purpose, it could, if you are successful at it, you can get 1,001 things coming in, which means nothing in the long run. But if you start with a purpose, okay, my purpose is either to communicate with whoever's here, or I'm going to go and I want to be able to go and in the case of scrying, what is it that I should be looking out for in order to, for this week? Is there something out there that I need to watch? Or, is there a person who is envious of me? Or is there something that I need to do in order to excel at something? And that's what you do. You always have, or I'm looking for, like in the case of the prophet Joseph Smith, he always looked. He looked for treasure. Yeah. So that's how he, that's what he was known for early on. So you set that intent of what you want it for.
Suppose it's greed. Because when we do spells or prayers or something, if it's too greedy, we don't get it, So does that have anything to do with scrying? If somebody wants to be really, really greedy? And
I think a lot of it does. But again, you and I have different ethics than a lot of some other people out there. So, I always say that everything evens out at the end. So, these people that use divination or whatever or negative, or to be greedy or whatever, something like that, to get something that they don't need. It evens up. It might show it. It might, if the other side feels that you really need it, they'll go and show it, But they also might go and tell you how to do something where, you end up falling flat on your face later on because of the actions that you did. So, I mean, a lot of it, because it's like, karma's a tough one, because yourself, you and I live by karma. I mean, I'm more of a fatalist a lot in many cases, but I'm still I give karma a lot of due, and some people don't, and they will trip and they will fall, and it all goes with ethics, and the threefold rule, and I mean, and in my case, I mean, I really don't go for the threefold rule because I've done some dark stuff over the years.
Well, sure.
But why did I do the dark stuff? Well, there was a reason for it. There was a divine light that at the end of the tunnel, that this stuff had to be done in order to achieve that divine light. Yeah. So sometimes the darkness has to be, it has to be invoked. And that's where a lot of people get all confused, because all of a sudden it's like, like Buck always used to call people fuzzy bunnies, and those of us that have done this type of work know that we all walk a razor's edge, and what ethically, we have to kind of watch and be aware of that.
We do. Now, I just watched the clock, so we're going to take a break. So everybody, look at your thumbnail for the next 2 minutes and see if you come up with something. You never know. And we'll be right back.
There's more Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks right after these important messages.
I was in the hospital with my son for 18 months.
When he got injured, I wasn't prepared, but I knew I had to be strong.
When I was told about John's injury, I was in complete shock. I just remember rushing into his room and giving him a big hug and letting him know I was there.
These veterans and families are just a few of the heroes we serve at Homes for Our Troops. For thousands of severely injured veterans, everyday life is filled with barriers.
It was really the little things throughout the house. Counters that you can't roll up to. I had to drag my wheelchair down steps.
I want to help, but he is so determined.
At Homes for Our Troops, we build specially adapted custom homes with features like wheelchair access, roll-in showers, and automatic door openers that allow them to function independently and focus on their recovery and family.
This house is freedom. It's hope. It's a new beginning.
This house has given me my family back.
To learn more, visit hfotusa.org.
Throughout time, events have occurred that have shaped human history. Spirit voices from the past have many stories to tell, and for the past several years, channelers Barry and Connie Strom have been conducting live channeling sessions and relaying those stories and messages from those on the other side. We invite you to tune in to Barry and Connie's new show, Channeling History, on the Para X Radio Network, every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, as they relay the messages of those voices from the past, the ones who have witnessed history firsthand, and those who have made history themselves.
Hey everyone, it's Marla. If you like tonight's episode of Stirring the Cauldron and the archive podcast as well, take a look at the show's YouTube channel and check out the dozens of shows that are there just waiting to be heard. New shows are added each week, and while you're there, why not subscribe? It's free. And if you click on that tiny little bell icon at the top of the page, you'll be notified when new shows are available. Just go to youtube.com and then type in Stirring the Cauldron Para X, and the link will appear. Just like magic.
Welcome back to Stirring the Cauldron. Once again, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
And Tim Shaw's here with me tonight. It's not a Reverend Witch. It's a Marla and Tim show, or Tim and Marla. We always make the guests first. But anyway, I tried. Yeah, we're talking about scrying. And, I mean, there's a lot here that if people were to go on Google and look up scrying, they're not going to hear and see all that stuff that you're telling us about, which is really, really a good thing. You're good.
You know what? The one thing I often wonder is that when you start doing you start doing research on the internet, I often wonder, like, especially when it comes to the metaphysical arts, if the people actually have ever done what they're writing about, and it's funny because we'll all sit around, up here in Western New York, and we'll talk about something and say, listen, I just read this on the internet. Have you ever had this experience? And everybody will sit there and look at each other like, no. Have you ever tried this? When you're spell casting, did this work for you? Did this type of ingredient work for you? And like everybody will look at each other and go, well, I tried it. I tried using whatever this type of powder once. And in all honesty, it smelled like somebody that had really bad BO, and I couldn't use it to clear this house. And excuse me, and people don't realize that you often wonder. I really don't think sometimes these people go and are actual practitioners. That's why I always tell people, listen, try to find somebody that may have a track record or has a mentor, that you can mentor with them, or go to a metaphysical shop and ask people there. But even then, sometimes people, I know people that sell stones, and you go in there and they'll spit some of this stuff out at you, and yeah, you're right about this and that, but yet they've never really worked with stones. They've never cleared stones. They've never used crystal grids. But yet they'll tell you about it. So you have to really watch what you learn on the internet.
Yeah, no, it's true, and it's hard because when you first start out, you don't know who's the right person to ask for. You don't know which book you should be reading, or which website you should do, or any of those groups on anything. But eventually, it happens that you trip over your foot too many times, and then you start getting smart and asking around, right?
Well, that's exactly it. And it's also the same thing with literature. I went out and I was looking for all this information on scrying. When I was asked to teach a class on it, I went, "Oi, how can I explain this?" I mean, like anything else in metaphysics, it's so simple, yet we make it so hard. That's why I try to keep it, I use that KISS method, keep it simple, stupid, If I can understand it, maybe other people can understand it. So I went out, I was searching, and I looked through books and everything. The best books that I found, of course, were by the late Ray Buckland. Of course, he's, he was for years and years and years, he was the, number one guy that really him and Scott Cunningham and, a few other people. And now there are Judica is great, her books. But I mean, a lot of times, these books are put together just to sell. And unfortunately, when you start reading about it, and especially with scrying, I would sit there and I would look. I'm reading. I remember, Marla, I was reading this one book on the process, and it was like doing something with high magic. It was a whole ritual. It was, I mean, literally, it was drawing the circle of protection and
four quarters.
Oh my God, yeah, and I'm like reading this, and I'm going, wait a minute, I scry, I don't do this stuff. So then, of course, I'm second guessing myself, and I'm going, wait a minute, why am I doing this? Why would I go and bring in something like High John or whatever, And I'm looking at then I'm trying to figure out what their angle is, what I mean, like use High John in conjurations, in voodoo and that. And it's like, no. And it didn't make sense to me. And then I realized it was like this person, and I won't say the name, but this person was filling pages. And they went and they must have bought a couple just general witchcraft books, and they were just filling pages. And I went and thought, oh, okay. Now, Tim, how am I going to teach this? Am I going to teach everybody to go to this class and give everybody chalk and make a little circle around everybody? It's like, no, let's just go. Let's do let's do just a little protection intention, and let's work with this, and let's do this real quick meditation. And now let's get into this. Let me explain to you A, B, C, D, and what to expect. And I've never had anybody really have any problems with it. Again, but it's the fact, and I've almost never read, I'll be honest with you, I've never read anywhere about the whole idea of it being objective and subjective. Where, because it's always, everybody says, well, scrying should be, visualization, but you're not really seeing it. You're not really seeing it. It's your mind, and it's projecting outward. It becomes almost like a hallucination, like a hologram, and you're projecting it outward. So, and you're tricking your brain into thinking that it's coming through your eyes, and people don't get that. And for me, it was just that realization. It was that aha moment that was like, well, wait a minute, this makes everything so much easier, makes so much sense. Now I can go and figure this out. And that's how I taught it. And, other people have used my stuff, and, in my technique, and they've taught it the same way. So it all works well.
Yeah, well, it's like those people that do books on ghost locations, haunted locations, and they've never been there.
Oh my God, yes.
They pick up, and we know who did that. But it's and everybody, even in witchcraft and scrying, everybody isn't on the same wavelength. So you can give them the basics, but then you have to also tell them it's not made in cement. It's not written in concrete. You have to go with what you feel, and trust what you feel.
I've never, Ray, when Buck was around, even he, in the beginning, he was pretty stringent about things. But as he got older, he became more fluid. And everybody that I've worked with over the years, and you know me, I've worked with some really great people. They're fluid. Everything, their magic, their conjuration, their mediumship is fluid. It evolves. It's constantly changing. It's never yesterday. Today my mediumship is not the same mediumship that it was yesterday, and it's because you never ever allow this to rest. You never become complacent, and people don't get that. People don't get that you just keep working at it, and you keep developing, and you keep practicing. And that is what makes you effective. And scrying, it's the exact same thing. You do it, and you work with it. And, I can show you a method, but then all of a sudden you may come up with something, your own little way of doing things. And, you might be able to go and turn off your TV and scry the screen, or anything, a pen cap. If so long as it's smooth, you can scry it. And the other thing people are not getting is the fact that you need a little bit of light. A lot of people do it in scry in ambient light. And the problem with scrying in ambient light is the fact that there's nothing. You don't want everything black. You don't want everything totally black. You want to be able to go and see the outline of whatever you're scrying, because that in your brain goes and allows you to make that your focal point. That's what you want. You want that focal point. So what I always tell people is you can take a candle or a real one or just an electric one and set it up behind you in in a darkened room, so long as the candle is not, the flame or whatever, is not reflected in the whatever you're scrying, the mirror or whatever, that's perfect, because it gives you just that a little bit of illumination in order to see the outline, and that's what you want. And like if you're like me, I scry in full light, but I think that just comes with practice.
Yeah, it does. I mean, everybody thinks all these things are so difficult. You have to do rituals, you have to do this and that, and in witchcraft as well. It's not. None of that is that hard.
Exactly.
You don't have to break your back or mess up your head. You do it what's comfortable to you. And if somebody tells you to do something their way and you're not comfortable doing it, doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's wrong for you.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I'm taking the task because I do things. Again, I'm not a real ritual guy, and I'm just not. I love going to rituals. I absolutely love them. But for me to conduct a ritual, something that's very intricate, that's not me.
Yeah,
never, even in real life, if I can get away with not having to go and take something apart in order to get to another part, I will try to do that. And that's just the way I'm made up. So when I start working with scrying, I'm starting to do anything with divination, I turn around and I always look for an easier way of doing it, something that's more effective for me. And being dyslexic, that's something it works to my advantage, because being conceptual rather than literal, I'm not burdened with text, and I'm not burdened with trying to remember things in certain orders or meanings of things. I'm doing it from pure intent. I'm doing it as when I'm getting that vision coming in, that vision is pure conception, not I'm not going to sit there and literally go and say, okay, now what are you trying to tell me? I'm not going to ask those questions. I just allow it to come. I allow it to see it, and to see whatever it is, and I allow, whether it's objective or subjective, I just allow it to be, and I accept it for whatever it is, however it comes in. And
expect
some people
the unexpected.
and some people really try to change their way of doing things, and you can do that. I know people that have really striven to go and be objective, to see through their eyes and to see into like crystal balls or whatever. And I often ask why. That's just like extra work. But if you feel that you need to do it, then you do it. Whatever way is good for you.
It's comfortable, and there's, like you said, there's no right or wrong way. It's just trial and error, basically.
Exactly.
And see, like I said, people that are going to look this up, someday in scrying and whatever, and they're going to see the same thing that every other book says, the same thing, same whatever. But it's just kind of one of those things that you have to do it your own way, and find somebody. I mean, it's good to find somebody.
Right.
But some people claim to be who they're not. So and here's the thing too, money. People think that God. People are gonna say, well, yes, I can teach you how to scry for $500 a week. Yeah, sure. And people will.
I got a funny story about that.
Go for it.
So my buddy Frank, he's a riot. He loves this. He's a retired CEO, and it's like you'd never think the two of us would ever be friends, but we're good friends. And he's after me to teach him how to scry. I had, you know how I am. I taught him, I teach. You remember how I taught you with the divot or oh my God, the dowsing rods? Remember?
Yeah.
Well, I went and I said, okay, you really want to learn how to scry? He goes, I want to learn how to scry, because I had just finished teaching him dowsing. I want to learn how to scry. I said, okay. So he's down in the collection room here, And I said, hold on, have a seat. And he's sitting there, and he's expecting me to bring out all this paraphernalia, water bowls and all this stuff. I walk out, I got 2 sheets of paper, and I toss it at him. He goes to me, he goes, what's this? I said, you want to learn how to scry? You got a choice. Here are the instructions, read it yourself, or if you want me to teach you, it's $50 for a class. I said, so which one do you want? He starts laughing. He goes, you SOB. He starts laughing. But he read it and he scries, And, I just told him, I said, if you have any questions, just let me know. And that's one of his favorite stories that he tells everybody about, how I taught him how to scry. But it's the truth. It's so simple. And some people can, again, I can conceptualize it, but to read it and to follow through, it's tough for me. And I know it's tough for a lot of people. And another thing is you have to go and you have to push yourself through the fear. Yeah. I'm at that point now. You know how I am. I mean, I won't say I'm fearless, but I really just, I'm not worried about a lot of things,
Yes. And that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. And for me to try something new, I don't think twice about it when it comes to magic.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have that wall where they can't penetrate it. They're afraid of it. I'll be honest with you, that's how I am with photography. I was never afraid of it years back in the 70s and 80s when I used to use, my old 35 millimeter cameras. Now with the new cameras, these newfangled things, I mean, I'm terrified of doing things. I've gotten better since I've, really been working with them again, but it's something you have to work through that fear of something going wrong. But when you realize, like with scrying, if you do it with protection and the right, and the right intentions, nothing's going to go wrong.
Right.
And the only way you can to build that confidence is to keep doing it.
Are people afraid that if they start scrying, they're going to see the devil and stuff?
Oh my God, yeah. But that's all part of a religious system that is, embedded in people's brains, and I just did a talk on haunted places, haunted, locations in Western New York, or the Erie. That this is how you know you made it in life when the Erie County Senior Services book you to speak. And I had over 100 people for this talk, which was great. I loved it. And a good response for it, and everybody I really a lot of people enjoyed it.
Good.
But their faces were a little. You could read their faces like what when I said, "Well, I'm not an angel or demon guy. I don't believe in angels, and I don't believe in the devil. I also don't believe in spirit guides. I believe in energetic personalities. I believe in energies. I believe in high energies, low energies." I said, but when it comes to personalization of these energies, there is no body left, so there is no person there. All that's left is an energetic imprint or a memory of the personality and the ego. And yes, it's intelligent. And yes, it can work with you. But I don't believe it as, the way like I was taught in spiritualism, where it's like it's an entity, where it is like an invisible person standing there. Or when I went to parochial school, we have these invisible angels and these demons that are there waiting to grab you by your by your heels and pull you down. I don't believe in that. And, when you strip all that away, it becomes very simple. It's either, high energy, low energy, or intelligent energy. And that's how I address everything. And that's how I address scrying or when I work with the cards or if I'm doing mediumship readings or whatever. It's just energy. And again, I strip everything down as best I can to its lowest common denominator. And by doing that, it makes it easy for me, but other people seem to respond to it. And I always say, hey, listen, believe whatever you want. This is the way I do it. And if your way works for you, go for it. But the problem is that people are afraid that, they're going to open up a door that they can't close. It's like Ouija boards or whatever, got news for you guys. You know, it's like, you know, if you fear, that's what's going to come and gather around you. You know, and that's the biggest problem. If you don't have a lot of fear, you know, if you're cautious, I always tell people to be cautious, but don't, and use common sense, of course. But I mean, don't fear. But if you don't, and again, people, and that's why it's always good to work with somebody, you know, a mentor or an instructor, because you can get over that fear. Because I still remember when I first learned how to dowse, I made this set of dowsing rods at work, and I said, I'm going to try this out. And the damn things worked. I remember dropping them on the ground going, oh, that's enough for me. You know, that's enough for me. But, you know, later on I went back and picked them up and did it again because, you know, that person, you know.
Falling off a horse.
Exactly.
We've got like just a couple of minutes, and I want people to know that you're helping me out with something that's coming out in 2024, and you're going to be it's all about scrying in one section. So I'll let you know later what's going on, but if you like to hear more about it, I'm sure this is going to be, you know, the tip of the iceberg of what he's writing. So anyway,
listen, Marla, it's only a little tidbit. Believe me, when you read it, you'll sit there and say, "This is so simple." You know, why make it? You know, I can say that you'll have to go and you'll have to ride your broom and go around the world 4 times, but you know, I don't want to make you do something like that. Let's go to the simplest way of doing it, and it's fun. You know, and it was so much fun because I'm almost done with it, by the way, Mara. But I got it's only, you know, it's a small little piece, but I'm able to go and just be able to go and just put all the little tidbits together so that they all connect.
That's exactly what I was looking for, and that's exactly why I asked you to do it. Now, in the next minute or 2 or 3. The Black Cat Lounge is open again, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We brought it back. And a lot of you guys know I had a cornea transplant last year. And then as I was recovering from that, they found another cyst or polyp in my bladder. So they had to go in and they had to remove that before anything happened. And so I decided to take a hiatus of everything. I took off almost the entire summer. And, you know, and I'm going to put the show on hiatus. I've been working hard on it since COVID and when I brought it back. And I just brought it back. I had my second show last night and I moved it to Wednesday nights at 7:00. And I just put it on Facebook, and you can find it on Spotify, you know, the audio on Spotify. I'm trying to keep up on my website, which is like, you know me and websites, Marla, you know, it's like, I'm working on it, but it's, you know, sometimes they like me and sometimes websites don't like me. But
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, so I'm going to be putting it up on that, and it'll be up on YouTube. So you guys be able to find it all over the place.
But and where can they go where it's
I'm sorry, my website is timothytshaw.com, and you'll be able to find links of the show on my Facebook page. Just go right there and you guys can find it. And I've only got one little thing planned for the rest of this year, and that is a reading day, Black Friday at Paranormal Oddities in Depew, New York. And I'm going to be, I think it's from 2 to 6 or something like that. Anyway, just give them a call and we can set something up. And I'm doing 15-minute mini readings, and you know, Marla, you know what the difference between my 15-minute readings are and my 30-minute readings?
Go for it. Tell me.
My 30-minute readings, I talk slower.
Okay.
That's the only difference. And I charge more money. So that's the only difference.
Now you blew it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, just come on in for that.
Yeah,
so
15 minutes.
That's more than enough. Believe me, that's more than enough. I can tell you more. I'll tell you more than 15 minutes than I can tell you in an hour. I'll just, like I say, talk slower, and I'll make stuff up along the way. No.
All right. So if whenever they find out when you're going to have the Black Cat Lounge, then they can come in live, and there's a chat room in there.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's going to your Facebook page, right?
Right. It's on my Facebook page for now. And as a matter of fact, I'm looking to expand it out a little bit more. But for now, I'm just bringing it in slowly. And the big thing that I'm excited about is once a month, I'm going to bring in a holistic practitioner,
Nice.
somebody who does something, other than paranormal. I want to be able to go and share these wonderful modalities with people.
Good.
And
We have to go out. So
Yes.
yes.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Sorry. Thank you for listening in. And we'll have Tim back, and we'll do some more stuff. And maybe next time we'll do it as a Reverend Witch, so we have 2 hours. That will be good. So thank you, everybody. And until next time, blessed be, and merry meet again. Good night.
This has been another edition of Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks. Be sure to tune in next week at the same time for another great guest and more fun. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2009.
You have been listening to the Para X Radio Network.